Welcome to Leads and Leverage, Real Estate Team Leader Lounge, where success in real estate meets passion-driven leadership. I'm your host, Tyler Gibson. I'm an entrepreneur, real estate team leader, and investor, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in the ultimate hub for real estate excellence. In this exclusive lounge, we're diving deep into strategies, tactics, and stories that fuel the success of real estate teams. Whether you're a seasoned pro looking to take your leadership skills to new heights or an aspiring entrepreneur ready to build your own powerhouse team, this podcast is your go-to resource for insider insights and actionable advice. Get ready to hear from top experts, industry pioneers, and real-world achievers who are making waves in the real estate world. We'll explore the best practices, share invaluable lessons learned, and equip you with tools you need to thrive in today's competitive market. Welcome to the lounge where leaders are made and success is earned. Come on in to the Real Estate Team Leader Lounge.
So today with me, I have Todd Schroth. Todd is a team leader here in Orlando with me. And I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about your journey and why you started a team. And so start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how long have you been in real estate, how long have you had a team? That sort of thing.
Yeah, been, I want to say it's almost a quarter century going on in this real estate world. I'm second generation into it, so I'm almost two or half a century into this because I'm going to be 50 soon. Because I've been in this industry since I was born. My parents have been selling real estate since the early 70s. So I followed their track all the way through and, got out of high school, 19 years old, bought my first investment property. Spent the first few years just buying investments, flipping and renting and retailing properties, and got burnt out of it. So I got my license at 25 and did a solo agent thing for a very long time. Did the 08 to 012 crash or 2012 crash. And, during that time is when I realized I had a lot of business happening and I needed help. And so I started my team in like 2010, and it was just me and an agent. Worked with her for about a year and an admin at the time. And then she wanted to go solo. So then I hired my second team member, probably 2013. And so it was just flipped from just two of us again. And I had an admin as well at that point. And then that team member is still with me, Angela McCurdy. So we're going on an 11-year journey together. And 2018, I took a jump to eXp Realty and wanted to build a bigger team. Was as big as 20 people at one point. And this year I'm realizing smaller's better. It doesn't matter how big your team is. It's, what's comfortable for you and where you want to be and what you want to do. And we're at 7 agents right now. And I'd rather focus on a few than many, and get them very productive and, keep the focus there.
That's awesome. So
that's a lot in a small amount of conversation.
Yeah. You started your team in the middle of the Great Recession.
Yes. Yep.
So I'm curious, what kind of business were you doing that you were so full of business? Were you still working with cash buyer investors because you had been in that lane, or were you dealing more with short sales and that sort of thing?
We had a lot of short sales, and at one point, and I managed my own short sales. I tried to outsource them, and it was just easier to handle them in office. So I'd be on the road driving, doing stuff. I'd have my files next to me. I would, because knowing you're going to sit on the hold for an hour, like I got an hour drive in front of me, so let's make these calls to these couple files. And so we had 25 listings that I was carrying on average. And wow. So, and some of those listings would be a year on the market. So it's not like you were turning properties. We were just sitting there with the inventory because I could go take any listing. It was easy. It's just a matter of getting it to closing, obviously, at that point. So we had a lot of signs. And, the more signs we had, the more calls we got. So I can't do it all. And I had an assistant as well. So between her and I, we were managing the short sales, but I couldn't run around buyers. I couldn't run around listings, and I couldn't manage all of that by myself. So that's when let's get an assistant or not an assistant, but a team member to help with that. And then her and I would focus on we'd have a money phone. If it was a certain number was calling in, somebody grab it because we know that somebody calling on a sign, calling off an advertising or something. And so we would track that. So if we had postcards going out, we really built our business around that time because if we did just sold cards, her and I both had that phone number on our phones. Or if we did the sign calls, it was the same thing. It was if that number rang, whoever gets it, let's get that lead. So that was really what I think pushed us. And in 2012, I had acquired someone else's business as well, who had a farm, and it was a husband and wife team. So they were retiring, so we ended up taking over their business, which I'm still running that as well today. That's kind of gave us the trajectory as well.
Wow. And you said you had as many as 20 agents at one time, and now you've realized smaller is better. Tell me about how you came to that realization.
It's the more time you can pour into a few people than a lot of people, I think you're going to make them more successful. When you're trying to pour into 20 people, you're literally running around, and I don't have, sales managers and trainers and everything. We are doing it ourselves. And I have the support staff with the admin. And at that point I had 4 admins, so it was very expensive. Payroll and being very payroll heavy. Now we're with 2 admin and a VA, and it's a lot easier because they can focus. You realize that a lot of their jobs are overlapping. So if I can get away from the overlapping jobs and really focus what's there and what can I push to a VA as well, then you can really, 1, cut your expenses and control your money a lot more. But 2, when you've got some who show up, some who don't, and you feel bad about the ones who didn't show up because they've got a client and they now need you. Well, again, we had a training class on that today. It's easier to focus more attention on a few people who need you than many who don't want to participate. And, something else you need to do is fire fast, hire slow. And that was something we didn't do then either. So we would fire slow and hire fast. And we really narrowed down the people we want to be around.
That's great. So tell me a little bit about the team culture for you guys and kind of how you structured it. Because as I've started to have these conversations, I've found that there's some teams that, the team leader is the rainmaker. They generate all the business and then they pass it off to the people on their team. And then some team leaders, they're more like a coach, and they don't generate a ton of business for their team. They more so teach their team how to generate business and then support them through it. How would you define the way that you guys go about the team structure?
Kind of a mix of both, because, I don't want to be the sole person running all the business as far as bringing all the business in and then pushing it out. Because, if you left my team, I want you to be I don't know what the word is, like protege of me, or an example of me. When you leave, you know what you're doing. And versus, we write everything, we do everything, just go show houses. I could hire a bunch of showing assistants to do that. We want people to know how to run a business when they leave the team. And our goal is not to have you leave, but people grow up, people move on, people move to the side and want to run a business alongside you, and you want them to be successful if they're doing that. But our cultures, we're pretty much here, the way our business works. I'm responsible for all the lead generation as far as the systems we're putting in place. And it's up to the agents as well to generate their own business. So you got to consider a pie chart. And I'll kind of pop this in the screen, but you've got 2 sides. And, the agent should be working on their sphere, open houses, and prospecting. And then prospecting being FSBOs, expireds, et cetera, things that they can do outbound business. And then the stuff we're going to bring in, internet business, listing leads, and then anything else that we have, agent referrals or, my business that I've got if I have too much. And then we sometimes have a capacity where we're beyond because of our, we've been in the business so long. So I call it, if you're doing this side, then I'll open up the other side. So if you're not willing to do any prospecting, bring your sphere in or anything like that, why should I give you business that we're generating on, bringing it over? So, and our culture, we try to have a meeting in the office about every other week where we'll just sit down and really focus on what you've got going on, and do some sort of training in the office. Every morning from 9 to 9:30, we do have a culture call, where we're asking, Mondays, what's the wins? Thursday, Fridays is let's do some role playing. Fridays, you guys, or Wednesday, Thursdays do role playing. Fridays, guys, go do your thing. But I want to keep the calls at a half an hour. If we start going over, because 50 people are trying to talk about random stuff, let's kill the call and you guys call each other after the fact. We do it on Zoom. We want cameras on. We want everybody participating. And then now that's starting to warm up again, we'll do boat rides down the intercoastal to get lunch. We'll next Tuesday we're going up the river to get lunch at Swamp House. It's just getting out and away from the phones, getting out of the office. And we have an office environment, so for us, it's getting out of the office.
Yeah. So you originally started the team because you had an overflow of business and you needed another pair of hands. Why do you still run a team?
I question that every day, Tyler. Should we get into a counseling session at $90 an hour? Maybe you can help. You built an animal so big, it's so hard to sometimes I think, hey, maybe I want to go back to the old ways and let me just do it myself with an assistant or two, or let me go back to having two people or three. And it's like, well, what's the difference between 3 and 7? There's not much of a difference. Because, at a certain point in your career, I have enough business here that I can either work 10, 15 hours a day and keep going and have people do all the paperwork and just run around. Or if I do get too much, I have business that we can push to the other agents. And it's also nice to have other agents around you that are trying to help build along with you. And, that's why I'd say it's having the right people who want to be on the long-term journey with you. And I'm not on the short-term game anymore. If you want to come in here, learn the business, and leave in 3 months, we'll recruit you as a mentor, mentee relationship. But I'm not going to bring you on the team because it's very specific now who we want to bring in. We want people who are working, who are doing the job, and take this as a full-time opportunity.
So you guys only bring on full-time agents to the team. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because, the thing about the time that I got to pour into you, and all of a sudden you've got to go to your night job or you've got to go to your day job. And if you're working during the day and it's opportunities come where, hey, I need to see a house at 4:00. Sorry, I can't because I'm working. And then you're asking someone else to cover for you because you're out in a job. Like, that's not fair to the other people on the team. That lead should really be given back over to another team member who can work it efficiently.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. We deal with that from time to time.
Yeah. And I've had, I'd say we've had part-time agents, or full-time agents with full-time jobs, trying to balance both. And it's hard because this is a full-time business. It's a full-time plus, and if you're gone every weekend on your Friday, Saturday job or Saturday, Sunday job, and, that's the weekend, it's most of the time when we're working is on Saturday and Sundays looking at properties with clients.
So do you guys take on brand new agents that are going to be full-time? They don't have another job. They've got 6 months of savings and they're ready to go all in? Or do you guys have a minimum transaction or volume that you look at for people that you consider to join the team?
That's a good question. I like new agents because I can train them of no bad habits versus retraining you. But also new agents are hard because they require more time. But I'll take anybody as far as a conversation. And then if we're the right fit and I know I can work with you and we can work together to keep things going, then then I have no problems bringing on a brand new agent. And as long as they're willing to focus and work alongside us all day long.
As a team leader, are you encouraging your team members to build a brand of their own, or are you pretty strict about you're part of the Schroth team and that's the only way that you should present yourself? Or are you encouraging people to get out there and build a brand on social media and try to prop themselves up?
I want everyone to build themselves alongside us. So yes, build the Schroth team, but you are your own brand. And so, even though you're a brand underneath us, kind of like we're a brand underneath eXp Realty, underneath the brokerage, I've got to build eXp I got to build my brokerage name alongside my name, so that my team members need to do the same. So I want them to have their own identity. If they have garb, it's going to say Todd Shroth Real Estate Team on it or Home Selling Team. They're not going to have Tyler Gibson powered by Todd Shroth Home Selling Team, brokered by whatever. They're not running out and doing that kind of stuff. But I want them to have their own Facebook pages. I want them to build their own following. Because again, if in 2 or 3 years you decide, I'm love everything that's happened here, but I want to go off on my own and do my own thing and be my own identity, you have something to work from. But while you're on the team, be working and building, the team alongside yourself.
Love that. So if you were to go back and tell your younger self starting a team a couple of pieces of advice, what would you suggest? Or somebody says, "Hey Todd, I'm thinking about starting a team." What would you
don't do it.
You're not the first person to say that. So
but that's why I say sometimes we're thinking about as we're haven't seen our 2024 transitions, this business. It's like, is it the right move? Is it and is it do we implode and just start scratch, or do we kind of rebuild within? But if I was to go back to tell my younger self starting all over again, what to do, or telling a brand new person, that's starting a team, what they need to be doing is really understand the model you want to build. Don't keep changing things, because then it gets confusing and you have no standards. So, things I wish I would have learned when I started was what a team model looked like, what the splits needed to be, how to control expenses, what your marketing budget needed to be. And I'm just going to use an example. My property direct expenses need to be 2% of my gross income, and my rent needs to be X, and my, whatever it's going to be. I just make sure you have all that and you're working on those things. That was not taught to me until probably 15 years later. So call my 15 years of running a team a shit show. But excuse the language on here. But that's things you want to start out knowing and what you have, and have your business plan and try to stick with it. Like you're doing your plan every year, make sure you have your business plan for the team, what you want it to look like. Do I want 20 agents, or do I want to just focus on me, an assistant, and 2 or 3 people? And what do those people look like, and what are their roles? Do I want a listing specialist and a buyer specialist, or do I care that they do both buyers and sellers? And, for us, we're trying to teach our agents everything so they have an encompassed knowledge of the whole business. But Tyler, you may never want to call expireds or FSBOs, so I'm not going to tell you to go sit on the role play sessions of that, but I think it's good for you to hear those things because you want to have the knowledge of it. Or right now we're teaching pad split investments. And some of them don't want to deal with the pad split investments, but you know what? It's something new. And I think someone brings it up, or you have, you're talking to an investor or a friend about buying something, mention that, because it's a new term that's out there. And just so you can be encompassed of everything that's going on in the business. So don't focus on one little thing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's important for every agent to know a little bit about everything. So they can at least talk about it, even if they have no desire to, do that type of deal. They could at least have somewhat of an intelligent conversation with the consumer about it. And, my thing is, why wouldn't you want to tell them, I know somebody that can help you. And if nothing else, refer the business to somebody that does want to do that kind of business.
Correct.
Yeah. So I love that.
I had a gentleman this morning I was talking to. He's like, he saw one of our signs. He's like, and this is something that I know that I talk to all the time. He's like, I saw one of your signs, in the neighborhood, good looking house, whatever. And we were talking, and he goes, do you do commercial? And I said, it depends, because there's 3 or 4 versions of residential. And in that 3 or 4 versions, you have all these little spin-off models. We've got personal investments, you've got land, you've got single family, and then renters or rentals. And you get into commercial, there's so many different things that can happen. And he's like, if you want to get into commercial, I can probably help you buy the 7-Eleven building on the corner, but I'm not going to help you buy the 7-Eleven. I'm not going to help you buy the business, but I'll help you buy the building. But then I don't know if I want to get involved in a gas station, because of all the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 things that happen with it. I'm not the specialist in that, and I don't want to be liable for those things. And so if it's like buying a commercial house, cool, easy to do. It's a building. But I'm not going to get involved in industrial or, apartment or commercial leasing or things like that. Find someone but you know what? I know a lot about it, but I'm enough to be dangerous, and I've got a real estate license that I don't want to lose. So I'm not going to go be too dangerous, Johnny Dangerfield, and then, whatever you want to call it. So that's why I refer to Tyler for the commercial for this section, or Robin for this section.
Yeah. Even within my team, and we say that we specialize in working with out-of-state investors, but even within my team, we've even specialized down to the investor level, right?
Mm-hmm.
One person on my team really likes to analyze short-term rentals and understands the Disney market and where you can do short-term rentals and where you can't. And somebody else is really interested in the pad split model, right? And so they want to talk about that. So when we get an opportunity that comes in, I do my best part to do discovery, determine what it is that they're looking for, and then get them matched with the person on my team that specializes in that particular thing. It's still residential. It's still residential investing, but it's even niched down farther than that. And so I think it's really valuable to understand what lane you play in. But as an agent, we should know a little bit about everything just so that we know what we do and don't want to do, right?
Yeah.
How do you know that you don't love FSBOs until you try?
Right. I mean, never tried it, so I don't know if I want to like it, but
right. So, would you be open to sharing a little bit about what your team split structure look like? Do you guys have a different split for team-driven business versus self-generated business? Does that, is that something that you guys have done in the past, or have you changed your splits often? Or
this is why I say figure out your model and kind of roll with it, because we've changed our splits too often, and I think we've found the model that's pretty consistent for us now. And 2-3 years from now, it may change. It depends on where we're at in the business, but you've got to figure out what you're offering and make sure it's worthwhile, because the most profitable split model is 50-50 on everything. But you've got somewhere like, for example, and I'm going to go back to some coaching ideas. They would say, okay, if you have a give me lead, and I got a client that has called in that wants to buy a house. Hey, Tyler, here's the deal. This is a give me lead. It's 30% to you, 70% to me. So all you got to do is literally go show them houses, get them under contract. The team takes care of the rest. This is not an internet lead you had to harass. So there's 20%. That 20% extra was because you had to harass them. This is a lay down, go to closing. And then, so we played with that. And it's like the team would be like, it's a 30%. I want to do that. So we run a 50-50 model now. And then the only thing I take 70% on is the listings, because it's so expensive to get to a listing that, we want to make sure we're keeping some of it in-house. But it's also, and it has a lot of upfront expense. But at the same time, listings are a lot easier than buyers, because, I've had those lay down buyers that I spent 3 years with. Mm-hmm. So they're going to buy it. It's just a matter of when. And been out a lot of times with that same buyer for 3 or 4 years. And there were some of my closings last year were people we were out with for 4 years, looking on and off. They just got to find that right unicorn. But when you think about a listing, it's the agent goes on the appointment, gets a listing, they hand it back in. What's the next thing they have to do? Nothing, because the team takes care of the rest of it. They got to go meet the seller to present the contract. I mean, they don't even need to meet the photographer, because our photographer has, he schedules all that stuff being done. And then it's, negotiate the inspections and go to closing with them. That's an easy opportunity for a client, but it's expensive to get those calls to come in. You got to think about like Zillow calls. If you're on Zillow Premier Agent, those calls are $600 per ring. So you got to make sure someone's answering the phone. And if you have agents who are not answering, you don't put them on those lead flows. So that's where, and if you got into an ISA model, you got to have money available for that as well. And some people say the team leader's trying to get rich off the team. They don't realize that the amount of expense that goes into running the business every month. They don't think about the rent, the payroll, the $6,000 or $10,000 a month you're spending on Zillow that you're not answering, or the money you're spending on pay-per-click, or and all these little things that add up. I mean, we were running our numbers, we're like, what is this fluff of like $5,000 a month? And it's all the little nuances that help run your business, and your overpriced database, your overpriced website, all that stuff. It comes out of our pocket. We finally get money 60, 90 days later to help pay for it after you start seeing closings from that opportunity that came in. So if you're a new team leader starting out, figure out what your lead source is going to be, what your budget's going to be, and who's handling each thing.
Yeah, I love that too. You mentioned 60, 90 days out. I'm constantly having to remind myself and every agent on my team that what you do today, you don't usually see the fruits of that for 90 days, sometimes 6 months, right? It could be a long time till you see the rewards of the effort you're putting in today. And so, how are you keeping your agents motivated when they come and they say, "Hey, Todd, I'm doing everything you said I need to do, and I'm not seeing anything"?
So I want to say with that, I'm taking them and like, all right, maybe what you're doing is not your style. So if you're not someone who's good at calling internet leads, I can't force you to pick up the phone. Let's find another way for you to generate business. Maybe it's door knocking. Maybe it's open houses. Maybe it's, hey, let's reach out to people who know they can trust you. Let's call our sphere and let's get in front of them. Let them know you're a real estate agent. You've got to find what suits you. I mean, I'm not a prospecting team, so if you came to my office, we're not going to sit there and do 1,000 dials a day, 1,000 dials today together. We're going to help you find the mold that fits you. Now, if none of it fits you, then you're probably not fit for the business, and you're going to be one of those statistics. And I'm sorry that happens, but we want to find what's going to work with you and then help you guide in that direction.
What's one mistake you would caution a team leader against making? Something you've done, you went, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Don't do that. Don't do what I did.
Hiring agents too fast and not having a system in place.
Talk to me about which system.
So
a hiring system or
a hiring system, an onboarding system, a training system. If we have, let's say we have Brevity for our database. And if I said, come in, get into the system, start working it. If I have never worked in there or don't play with it, I need to have someone on the team who does. Like I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a Brevity expert. I'm not in there every day like I should be, but I'm working my normal business and I work the way I need to. But I have someone on there who's mastered Brevity and who kind of runs our Brevity calls. And we're doing coaching on it with the team. But you want to make sure that they know how to get in there and find the opportunities that are available within the system. And so it's having that kind of process and procedures in place. So just don't have them come in and like pick up the phone and start making phone calls. Like, what is the source they're going to go after? Do you want them to start prospecting? Do you want them to start working in your pond? What is the scripts they're having there? And I want to go back 12 years when we started our team, or 13 years now. We didn't have any of that. And my partner and I, business partner, we were not cold callers, so we didn't script practice together. We didn't do any of that stuff. And as you grow, you're bringing on other agents who wait, actually, I need them calling because we have 20,000 people in our database and the pond is constantly rolling through. So now we do script practice, and we don't want to call on a script, but I want to make the words your own, but know how to roll the conversation.
Yeah. Well, you don't, I think agents, they hear the word script and they think I'm going to have to learn something line by line. It's less of a script. It's more of a framework, right?
Yep.
There's an intro there. You should have at least 4 or 5 questions you plan to ask that person throughout.
Yeah.
And hopefully they're open-ended, so you get them talking, right? And then you kind of have to have a conclusion. Where are you trying to take the conversation?
Yep.
So, it's less of a script. I think more of a framework. Of course, if you can hand them a script, at least that's a starting point.
Yeah.
I think to your point, make it your own words, but
have
a plan.
5-6 years ago, when we started bringing on more agents, I didn't really have that either. And I expected them to go out and know how to open a lockbox. I expected them to know how to go out and do these things. And, no offense, my wife, when she was opening lockboxes for me this weekend, and she's not out in production, she only will randomly go out when I need help. And she's like, I can't get the lockbox open. And literally pull down. So it was kind of comical with that, but it's maybe on the call this morning, we can talk about how to open combo boxes and the different combo boxes and then what to do with these other ones. So that's the stuff you really, that's old school. This is just beginner things, but if you throw them out to the wolves, they're going to look like an idiot with your clients. And whether it's somebody that's just in your database that wants to buy a house, or it's a referral or personal client that, you're working with. Now, these are friends from high school that are buying investment property, and they don't care, that we're having an oops at each house because it's 3 different kinds of lock boxes that are there, or the numbers are off or whatever. So, have fun with it as well, but, make sure you know how to at least get in the door when you're going through there. I know a lot about all things house. So now my trainings, I really want to focus around, what I'm good at is like, let's go to a property and identify the problems. I don't want you to be a home inspector, but I want you to be a analyzer. And let's walk through, let's look at a roof that's 30 years old versus 5 years old. That's needs to be replaced. Let's look at the interior. Let's look at what polybutylene looks like. Know the things you're going to run into as you're walking through a house, and you could talk to your client about. Because I've had people say, I like working with him because he's looking at, we already know what a dining room, a living room, and a kitchen is, but we don't know what the problems are inside the home, and that's what we have to go after.
Yeah, I love that, and I probably take the same approach you do. If I walk through a house and I point out all the things that might be a concern, and you still love it, well, then I've done my job right.
Yep.
Because my job is to provide information so that you can make the best educated decision regarding this home or the home that you're going to buy or whether or not you're going to sell, right? So I love that. What does your onboarding look like now? Is it a 90-day process? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? How long do you onboard an agent? And are you doing a lot of hands-on training or is a lot of it video?
It's a mixture of both. So our onboarding is still 90 days, and it's always been that way. We've just refined what we've done. It's more with the support team helping in the beginning than before I get involved. The minute they come in, they're going to sit down with Megan or Katie. Megan to get them into the systems, learn Brivity, show them the logins, make sure they got Slack and the MLS set up and all those things done. Their license is transferred. Katie's going over contracts with them. She's our closing coordinator. What she's going to do for them and what they need to learn to do. And then from there, it's really like just plug it into our systems, plug it into our global alliance systems, plug it into the EXP systems, plug it into our Brevity systems and our place systems. So they know where to find things. And then from there, all right, guys, next Tuesday we're going, and I've done this where we'll go visit a vacant house and pick the hell out of it. And look at all the problems. And I've taken some to home inspections with me. And like, this is going to be the most boring 2.5 hours of your day, but sit inside the house and listen to the inspector because that's where you're going to learn stuff. And I've been using the same home inspector for 23 years and he still talks to me like I'm a new agent, but I also look at things. I'm like, hey, what about this? He's like, yeah, I'm getting there. Don't over inspect me. But I show the agents that as well as like, look where he's going, look what he's doing, look what he's checking, and know to look for these things because when you walk in, you want to figure out how to fix the stuff. Or you can give them guidance on, this is an easy repair, not an easy repair. But that's where I try and educate them through the onboarding process.
How long do you plan to continue to run a team?
I got 10 more years that I want to be doing stuff. My kids are graduating in 5 years. They'll be out of college in 10 years. And it's scary to think that way as well, but I don't want to be locked down to an area. We want to be able to travel and do things. If I'm running my team at that point, it's because it's self-managed and it's self-run, and we've got the right people in place. But again, I don't want a 20-person team in 10 years. I only want one is because we got there, and we're so successful, and we are so dialed in at this point with everything that we're going to do that. And people aren't coming to me because I motivate them. I'm not one of those guys on my calls where I'm like, rah, 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 everyone stand up, shake it out. Like, it's going to be a Maniac Monday. We don't do that. I'm down like, all right, guys, we have 30 minutes or 15 minutes. Let's get to the point. And what's your wins, what's your losses? This is the updates. See you tomorrow at 9:00 on Zoom. And we're done in 15 minutes. So, if I had someone come in that was the rah, rah, rah version, we may build a bigger team because I got someone who can do some of that stuff, but that's like, it's a different mojo because like the team's not used to that. But I also want to get the team like where you're in, I want to show them how to invest and let's do some investments together and let's build a legacy together. That's my goal for my team going forward as we do stuff is like, because if we can show you how to invest, you can teach your people how to invest. And I have agents in their mid-20s. Like, you guys should be buying property right now. Your friends, if they just bought one, they should be buying 2 to 3 homes in the next 2 to 3 years That's college. That's kids' college number 1, kids' college number 2, kids' college number 3. And if you're having 8 kids, God forbid they're all going to community college. But that's what my mom did when we were younger. Was bought each of us a house to go pay for college, and that's what I wish I would have done for my kids originally. Was bought, and this we should have, if we were in the right financial position back in 08 and 09. Think about what we would have paid for them. And they're graduating high school in a couple of years, and those things have gone 3x, 4x in value.
Yeah.
Harvard is clear.
Yeah.
But and a mortgage pay down. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that. And we'll kind of call that the end of the interview. Yeah. What questions do you have for me? What value could I give you today, Todd?
I think for me, asking you, you've been in this business a short period. You're buying investment properties. You're working with investors. You found your niche, and I guess that's the other thing too. Is the niches are in the riches, and that's what your focus is. And it's like, how did you decide to do that? And getting your team in there as well. How are you finding those investor agents? I guess would be a key question.
Yeah. So I found my way into investing kind of accidentally. My father modeled this behavior of buying a property whenever we moved somewhere, and then when we were moving away, which I moved a lot as a kid, but when we moved away, he would always try to keep it as a rental. Right?
Yeah.
And there was never an explicit conversation about why or real estate investing or how it'll grow your wealth, right? It was never something that we talked about, but it was something that I saw as a modeled behavior. And so once I got my first salary job, which $32,000 a year, I was so excited. I thought I was in the money, right? I was like, wow, that's good. It's a good job.
Yeah.
My wife worked for the school district at the time, and we both had salary jobs. We had already purchased our home, and I came home one day and said, we should buy a rental. And my wife looked at me and said, okay. And I was surprised because normally my wife needs a lot of empirical evidence to do anything. And I did not have my charts or anything ready. So to get a yes that easily was a little shocking.
Look at my spreadsheet.
But exhilarating, right? So we went out and did it. Now, I'm fortunate. I was in a place where my father had some extra capital, and he was willing to be the bank for me. So I was able to get into my first rental with $5,000 down, right? Because Dad was the bank, and so he was able to finance the rest of the mortgage for me. Or he actually purchased it cash, and then we had a note set up, and it wasn't until I got that first rent check that I realized how powerful real estate could be. I got $1,000 in my mailbox. I did absolutely nothing for it. I was so excited. I said, "This is the best money I've ever made." I didn't do anything, and I got $1,000. And my wife killed my buzz because she said, "Well, we didn't make $1,000. Our mortgage was $600." And I said, "Yeah, that's not I said we got $1,000. I didn't say we made $1,000. But as soon as that switch flicked for me, I wanted to figure out, how do I make more of that kind of money, that passive income. And so I started doing internet research, I was Google searching rental property calculator. That's how I was looking for a way to better analyze real estate. Because when I bought my first rental, my analysis was something along the lines of, I think my mortgage is going to be X, and I think I'll be able to rent that house for this much. I said, I think. In both instances, I had no evidence. It was just gut feeling, right? Which is not how you should go about buying real estate investment properties, purely on gut. I was fortunate. It was a forgiving time, right? It was about 9 years ago. Prices in Orlando are not what they are today. It was in a good neighborhood. And so I got really lucky on my first deal, considering how little I actually knew. But as soon as I started, I wanted to know, how could I be better, right? How could I actually figure out if this was a good investment? And then also, how do I analyze future investments? And so by doing that I stumbled upon biggerpockets.com, which is the world's largest investor forum. And I think they've got two or three of the top 10 real estate related podcasts. And I started listening to their podcast religiously. I traveled a lot for work. I had a 35, 40-minute commute one way to work. So I was just constantly feeding my brain with more information about real estate investing, different ways, different asset types, how to analyze it, things to do, things not to do, and just stayed obsessed with real estate. And so as I got a real estate license many years later, I had already been an active member of that particular forum and had the opportunity to get a premium account with them. I think they're like $99 a month or something like that now. They offered it to me for free at the time because they were in the process of trying to add more agents to their platform in cities that were, desirable for investing, Orlando being one of them. And I've done a lot of prospecting right there through that forum, absolutely for free. And so many of the agents that are on my team, I met through that forum. The third agent that joined my team was actually a past client. I met him through that. He was a lead that came through that platform. I helped him buy a triplex in Leesburg. And then later on, he decided to get a real estate license and come participate with my team. And same thing. The fourth agent that joined my team, same thing. She was a lead from Bigger Pockets. That not everybody on my team comes from that has come from there, but many of them have. And I think for me, being able to identify my niche and hiring the people on my team that are going to fit in my niche, is to just tell them early on. I say, listen, we focus on working with real estate investors. Are you interested in that? Do you care about fix and flip? Do you care about, because you don't have to do it my way. Like I only really want to work with house hackers and long-term rental investors. Like those are the people that I would rather work with. I can do Disney short-term rentals, but I'm not wild about it. And so I just ask people what they're interested in. Do you like that? Do you not like that? If you don't like any of that stuff, we might not be the right fit, because I like to talk about investing in real estate. A lot of our clients like to talk about investing in real estate. I can teach you some of that stuff, but if you don't, kind of like you said earlier, if you're not going to like doing that, you won't do it, right? And I'm a big believer in that personally, and that's kind of how we've tried to structure our team is, everybody has these natural gifts and talents and things that they're interested in, right? And we call those strengths, right? A strength is, when you do a work activity that before you do it, you're excited about it. While you're doing it, you're in a state of flow. And after you're done, you feel invigorated, you feel energized, right? And so if you're doing an activity like that, then that's a strength zone, and you should double down and lean into that, right? It's hard for people to recognize that sometimes. It's really easy for us to know the things that we don't like. It's harder for us to recognize the things that we're good at and it's natural to us. But that's what our strategy is, right? When I talk to people, it's trying to people that are joining my team, explaining what we do, who our clients are most often, and are you interested in that? And most of the time, people will tell you, no, I don't care. Right? No, I want to be a luxury listing agent. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to teach you how to do that because I don't do that.
Right.
I'm sure somebody else can. Go talk to Peter, right? Or something like that. So that's kind of how we've gotten into it. And then a lot of the people that are on my team, they're brand new. Many of them are part-time. And part of that is because I started part-time. And so I think that people can start part-time and make a transition into full-time. It is challenging. I know that it's, a lot of people do it, but it is really hard. And so I wanted to be a place where people could come and do that if they wanted to have more of a team structure. But again, we focus on the investing side a lot. So we just try to teach people this is what we do. And I can show you how to analyze real estate. That's not true. It's a spreadsheet. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You just got to know where you can get the data elements to plug into it. And then it'll do the math for you. No problem.
I think like for your avenue, hiring brand new agents is or not brand new agents, but agents who have part-time jobs is easy because they're not the ones that are going to be going out and doing open houses, and you're not going out looking at 6 homes that just came on the market because I got to get into something right away. I can go look at them on my schedule because they're specific type properties you're trying to find. and you can analyze stuff in the evenings and talk to the buyers whenever. It's a different game because you're going after a specific, and it's something that they know and like.
Yeah. Well, and as I started and I started to grow my business, I was still working a full-time salary job. Now I was fortunate that I started during COVID and in that I didn't have to go to an office anymore, right? I got to work from home. And I tell everyone that joins my team, look, if you want to work with investors, the number one thing that you should be doing is analyzing real estate all day, every day, obsessively, right? Try to figure out how can you use the filters available to the MLS to whittle down the pool of properties that you should be looking at, and then go through and analyze. Will this cash flow? Yes or no? No, keep on moving.
Yep.
Yes, great. Let's surface that one and blast the database that I've already built of people that said they're looking for that type of asset. And so, people can be part-time on my team and still start doing transactions because all they need is an internet connection and a computer and a couple of hours a day to sit down and do some analysis on different property type to go find a deal, right? Investors, they don't want to look at all the homes that are 3-2 in a particular neighborhood. They only want to look at a place that matches their investment criteria, which typically has to do with cash flow or a specific ROI that they can get. And so as a part-timer, it's much easier to do that than trying to work with people that are looking to buy their first house, right? Because they want to go look at 20 homes. Their work schedule is going to be different than yours more than likely. Or, it's the same, but now you have absolutely no home life. You've sacrificed everything on the altar of trying to get this thing going. And so, that's what's a little bit different about us, but working with investors was my beachhead, right? That's where I started. That's where I planted my flag. And from here, we're trying to continue to grow our market share, into more of the residential retail stuff that we can. But it all starts with, planting a flag somewhere, establishing this is what I'm going to be good at. And then from there, you can kind of expand.
I think you've got the bigger pockets is a great avenue to come from as well. Ironically, the guy who used to wash our cars, when we made our announcement, he came into we moved from Remax to EXP. He came into the office. He's like picking up the keys. You're at EXP, so am I. I'm like, I didn't even know you had a real estate license. And he was going off of bigger pockets. And he started doing that and built an investment-based business. Now runs his own brokerage with 2 or 3 agents and runs it as a property management. But he's got a lot of partnership and a lot of different properties. And I'm like, it's amazing to see someone going from running a car washing business to an investment-style business the way he did, and built it over a short period of time. There's so many avenues with it. And, I don't need to go out and show 20 homes because they don't analyze. I got nothing else to do because I don't need to I don't have the investors don't want to see shit that doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, investors is the perfect niche for somebody that has a full-time job that can be analytical because, and I've said this multiple times, I don't show houses. I write contracts because a lot of the stuff that we're looking at, it might already have tenants in place. Oftentimes, if you have a tenant in your property and you're selling it, you don't want to disturb the tenants. So you only allow showings during inspections. And so, it made the most sense for where my life was at and the type of business that I was wanting to do. And, I'm not the type to want to bother people, right? I don't want to, so I'm not going to call expireds and FSBOs and try to, tell, somebody that's trying to sell their own home how they're doing a bad job, right? I mean, that just doesn't fit my personality type. I want to be an advisor. I want to be an expert. I want you to come and book time on my calendar so that when we sit down, the dynamic of the relationship is such that, I'm a resource for you.
Yeah.
And we don't set this relationship precedence where I need you more than you need me. Most of the time it feels like they need me more than I need them. Right.
Yeah.
I need them to generate revenue in my business, but, I don't put all my eggs in every single lead basket. So.
Right. And you got to keep it separated, but I also want them to feel this is a partnership. And I think it's kind of where we're trying to move our business as well with the more investment style than just, throwing the shotgun approach. Like we can bring it more into the investment side because I think that's where the avenues are going right now. I want to learn more house hacking. I want to learn more creative financing. So every time John puts something on, I'm going to his event because I just it makes my mind go and it gets me excited again. Yeah. And so, am I going to be a team leader in 10 years? I hope not. I hope I have enough assets that are running and paying for my lifestyle that I want, and cash in the bank that I could say, you know what, F you today. I don't care. Versus like you have to show up every day because we need the cash flow to continue to run our lifestyle. Yeah. And that's what I heard that from somebody, or it was actually on a video. But the guy's like, run a life of F you, because if you don't want to go in, then you're good and you don't have to worry about them. Get 2 or 3 million in the bank, 4 million, making 4 or 5%. You can live comfortably. Yeah. But
well, hey Todd, thank you so much for this.
Yep. I appreciate it. It was fun to do.
Yeah. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you guys.
All right. Appreciate you. Talk to you a bit.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Leads and Leverage. I hope you found our conversation insightful and actionable. Remember, success in real estate is not just about transactions. It's about the relationships you build, the teams you lead, and the impact you make in the lives of others. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected with our community of real estate leaders and entrepreneurs, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more valuable content and guests. Don't forget to visit our website, gpghome.com/leads and leverage for additional resources, show notes, and exclusive updates. You can also follow me on Instagram at @real_Tyler Gibson to join the conversation and connect with like-minded individuals. See you next week.